portion, Metzora, continues the description of the rituals that one performs if one experiences unusual things happening to one's body. This week's portion, Metzora, describes the ceremony for the skin rashes, what is known as tzara'at in Hebrew, but the Old English translation calls it leprosy. Clearly not leprosy, it's some other kind of bizarre skin rash or welling up on the surface of the skin. That does go away. And when it does go away, when the Kohen inspects, there's a ceremony that the one who survives such a skin rash must participate in. Two birds are to be offered. One as a sacrifice. One bird is slaughtered and offered as a sacrifice, but the blood is drained from that bird into a bowl, and the second bird is dipped into that blood and then let free. It is supposed to fly free outside of the settlement off to the fields. This bizarre ceremony for which there is no explanation. How could we even make sense of dipping a bird in blood and etc., etc.? It seems very bizarre, archaic, barbaric even. But the sacrifices, that is the system that the book of Leviticus describes, and we have to try to make sense of it. Nachmanides, Rabbi Moses ben Nachman, a great rabbi from the early 1300s, late 1200s in northern Spain from Girona, wrote an extensive commentary to the Torah. We can find the English translation of his work in this edition, which the Jewish Publication Society published, of the traditional edition of the Chumash and its medieval commentators. This edition here edited by Michael Karasik. So Nachmanides, a wealthy man, was able to write an extensive commentary to the Torah and suggests a very unusual interpretation reflecting some ancient ideas and ancient superstitions as well. The only other ceremony that we have in our tradition in which an animal is set free as part of the ritual is one that we're familiar with from Yom Kippur, and that is the two goats that the Kohen is supposed to take, one offered as a sacrifice for the sins of the people of Israel, and the other to have a crimson thread tied around its horns and led off into the wilderness outside of all settlements, and that to be cast off to Azazel as a scapegoat. That's the origin of that. As a scapegoat for representing all the sins of the people of Israel. So the scapegoat is cast off from the community, set free, and then the bird for the individual sufferer of this skin rash, this skin ailment, sets a bird free. Nachmanides suggests that both of these represent offerings to other divine or supernatural beings, that God is the supreme power in the universe, but God had to subdue other powers in order to reign supreme over everything. And that the offering of the scapegoat and the offering of this other bird represent offerings possibly to these other powers out there in the universe. It's really radical for Nachmanides to suggest such a thing, and he alludes kind of in his commentary. Those in the know what I'm talking about, Nachmanides suggests, and that, don't worry, it is not idolatry, but it is an offering that God commands that we need to do. As if the king, if you're at a feast at the king's table and the king says, give some of your food to my servant, we are not offering to the servant directly, we're offering to the king. Here too, the Nachmanides says we're offering to God, and God wants us to offer these other offerings. Again, it's very hard for us to wrap our head around this, but I thought it would be interesting for us to know that there are these ancient traditions that have become incorporated into Israelite tradition and into Jewish tradition today. One way to explore the meaning of the portion Metzora. Shabbat Shalom.